friends, today I am going to give a lecture on knowledge data discovery. It's a part of data mining, and the term knowledge data discovery is basically we are having a large amount of data and we have to discover some interesting pattern. That is what is known as knowledge. So in general, discovering a new knowledge means we are going to generate some interesting patterns from the existing data is known as knowledge discovery from the data, also knowledge data discovery. So in general, if we say that KDD is nothing, we are basically talking about the data mining process. But in general, if we say that data mining is a long term, whereas knowledge mining is a short term to understand. So what is knowledge data discovery is like we are having a huge amount of data and we have to find some of the meaningful information from that existing data. So that is what we are basically talking, the generating the interesting pattern from the existing data. So as I said earlier that knowledge data discovery is nothing, we are talking about the data mining process. So first of all we have to see that why there is a requirement of having a data mining. So in general we are basically having a huge amount of data, and my data is there in some GB, terabyte up to petabyte, and as long as the big data terminology has been also introduced, so I can also have a huge amount of data. So in general we are having different sources of data, so it's like we are having a lots and lots of data. So we are having some automated data collection tools and database systems along with web and community society from where we can generate some interesting patterns. So what are the major sources? The major sources are business, web, e-commerce sites, transactions, stock. In science also we are having remote sensing, biometrics, scientific simulations, and we are having digital data also, YouTube data, Facebook, tweets, and so on. So it's like we are having a huge amount of data, and further we just want to generate some interesting pattern, or you can say knowledge from the data. For example, we are having the history of the recharges of some mobile users, service providers, and further we just want to find out what will be the best plan for the company to provide to their customers. So that is a specific one application of data mining, and we are having huge uh, application areas where data mining is basically using, and it's also used in machine learning as well. So it's like we are basically having a huge amount of data, but we are starving from the knowledge. So it's like data mining is nothing, we are talking about massive automated analysis from the huge amount of data. That is the requirement of data mining. So in general, if I'm talking about what is data mining, so in general we can say it's a knowledge discovery from data, and we are basically extracting some interesting patterns or knowledge from the huge amount of data. That is what KDD is. So similarly, data mining having an alternate name as knowledge KDD, knowledge discovery from data. Data dredging, information harvesting, and especially one very useful term in this data mining is your business intelligence. But because whatever data mining approach or KDD process we are applying, we are basically using it for business intelligence, and similarly we are having different BI tools in the same areas. So if I'm talking about is everything is data mining, it's a simple search or query processing, or you can say along with expert system, and in fact somewhere somehow we are also using artificial intelligence in this. So in general, if I'm talking about the steps of knowledge data discovery, or you can say data mining, we are having some specific steps to perform how we can generate the knowledge from the existing data. But it's like first of all we have to see this process. So we are having some steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and then further 5, and there how we are basically going to generate the knowledge. But it's not a simple task. It is having n number of complicated tasks to be performed to generate some interesting patterns. So it's like the first step is data cleaning. It's like we have to remove the noise from the data. We are having huge amount of data. It is not necessarily that all the data is useful for us for mining the process. So before going before explaining this architecture, let me have a basic typical data mining model, or you can say a knowledge discovery model. So we are having a user interface, which is basically nothing. The user just want to have the interesting patterns. That is what we are having a knowledge base here. So we are understanding this architecture from the bottom of this, where we are having different sources of data. We can have the repositories in the forms of database. We are having huge database repositories along with some reports and data warehousing. We are having some external resources. We are having the data on World Wide Web, and another repositories are also there. So it's like we are having different domains of data. We have to combine them, we have to integrate them, we have to select what type of process, what type of model, what type of data is required from which type of resource. And then further again, as I'm saying, data cleaning means it is not necessarily that everything which you are having as a data is appropriate. So in this process we have to clean the data for further processing. That is what we are talking about. So we are storing this in database or warehousing servers, and then further we are basically applying some data mining process to evaluate some interesting patterns. So it's just like we are applying some data mining process and we are finding some patterns. So before declaring that this is a knowledge, we have to evaluate it. And whenever we are saying that yes, it is having a useful information, that is what we are talking about. We have generated the knowledge and we are storing it as a knowledge base. And then further, whatever interesting patterns we are basically getting from here, we are basically passing it on to the user. That is what the KDD process is. It's also known as a typical data mining process. So the first step is data cleaning. So I think that now the thing is clear, to remove the noise and the inconsistency in the data. The second step is data integration. It's like we have to combine multiple data sources to to find some interesting pattern, and you can say the intermediate results of data warehousing, and which can be further applied for data mining. So it's like data selection. These are the basic three steps which are basically commonly used in any data science project. So data selection, where data is relevant to analysis task, are retrieved from the database. So it's like we have to select what type of data is useful for us. Then further, somewhere somehow we are having a requirement for data transformation. Somewhere somehow we will use some aggregation. Somewhere somehow we are using some drill down data. Then further, we are basically applying some data mining process. So data mining process, like somewhere in some of the applications we are using classification, in some of the areas we are using clustering, and somewhere we are using supervised learning, where we are using some decision trees algorithm. We are basically generating some association rules. Now association rules, you can understand it like we just want to find out some of the rules of my sale. We just want to find out some association rules for the business. That is what we are talking about. Data mining process we have to apply, where intelligent methods are applied to extract the data pattern, and then further whatever pattern is generated from the data mining process, we have to evaluate it. Because it is not necessary that we suppose in for application A we are using classification approach X, but might be possible approach X is not good for that type of problem solving. So similarly, in that case also the pattern will be generated, but we have to evaluate my pattern method is basically going to give you interesting measures or not, because that is the key. And then further, if my pattern evaluation is okay, so we can say that yes, my knowledge is discovered. But again, in that last step, one important term is your visualization. It's like first of all, we have to visualize my knowledge pattern in a good way, so that we can also present it to the user in a good way. So these are the steps: data cleaning, data integration, and data selection. All these three steps are basically uh, applied here, and further we are basically generating all the data, and we can store the data in data warehousing. Further data warehousings, we are basically moving towards the data mining process where the specific where we are applying some algorithm on a specific data, and then further whatever patterns we are basically generating, we have to evaluate and then further present it using data visualization tools. That is how we are basically generating the knowledge, and then this complete process is known as the steps of generating the knowledge from the existing data. So this I have already discussed. Thank you very much, and feel free to contact me on this email ID if you're having some problem. Thank you. Have a nice day.